There's wisdom in experience, and success leaves clues. Today, we're going to speak to a top producer who's closed over 1,000 sales transactions. Learn from her wisdom. Stay tuned. This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod. And now, onto our show. Today's episode is brought to you by Corded.io. Are you looking for agents to join your brokerage or team? Now, as a real estate recruiter, I can tell you the answer is always yes. But most agents aren't looking to move right now. So how do you know who to contact? Well, what if I were to tell you there's a recruiting and retention tool powered by artificial intelligence that shows you exactly which agents in your local market are looking to leave their brokerage right now, and which agents at your own firm are also looking to leave you? Now, I've been recruiting realtors for 15 years and I've hired over 2,000 agents. I can tell you with no exaggeration, this is the tool I've been waiting for. Corded's AI looks for trends across dozens of variables for each agent in your market and shows you which agents they believe are likely to move. Not only does it do that, but Corded's AI went and visited my recruiting website and read everything I offer. So now when I'm recruiting, Corded's AI tells me exactly what to say based on that agent's needs and what my brokerage can offer. It even writes emails for me. I've never seen anything like it, and I use it every single day. Now, if you are looking to grow your brokerage, Corded.io is the best tool out there. Visit Corded.io to schedule a demo. Again, that's Corded.io. And now, onto the show. All right, welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name's DJ Paris. I'm your guide and host through the show. I'm very excited for our guest today because she is a superstar of superstars, I would say. And if you're not familiar with her, you will be here in just a moment because I'm going to tell you all the cool stuff she's done. Her name's Andrea Gordon, and she's been a top producing realtor in the Bay Area which, by the way, maybe the toughest part of the country to be a realtor in. She's been like the top producer there for the past 28 years. She's Compass's top producer in the Inner East Bay. She's done over 1,000 transactions in her career. She also has a podcast for realtors just like me. So check it out. It's called Realizations, RE capitalized. We'll put up a link to that in the show notes. And she really just has a ton of wisdom and you can learn a lot from her 28 years. She's amazing. So check her podcast out. It's available anywhere podcasts are served. But she credits her success to being kind, which of course I always think is underutilized skill, but actually listening to her clients and being also a marketing machine and never straying from her authentic self. She's also a theater director and also a playwright and producer, and has written 2 children's books available on Amazon. We'll have links to that in the show notes. And she's currently enrolled in a PhD program in transformative studies at the California Institute of Integral Studies. Of course she is. She's always doing cool things. She's been married forever to a terrific partner and has 3 dogs, 2 cats, and 2 parrots. Andrea, oh, by the way, before we bring on Andrea, follow her on Instagram, Andrea Gordon Real Estate, just like it sounds. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. Andrea, welcome.
My goodness, after that, I'm blushing. That was a very, very nice introduction. Thank you so much, DJ.
Well, thank you for coming on. I am always so enamored with people like you. It's just incredible what you've accomplished. And really, it wasn't your training to be originally a real estate agent. You're a creative person, you're an artist
Yeah.
and a writer and a director. So take us through the path of getting from, working the stage in front and behind the stage to, switching over to real estate.
Well, goodness. Yeah, actually, theater was what brought me to real estate. First off, they're pretty analogous skill sets. People in theater are constantly facing rejection. They're constantly in new environments. They're having to meet new people. They're having to think spatially. They're having to address, issues that come up in society. So there's a lot of stuff that is a crossover between real estate and theater when you think about it for any length of time, just like anything. I mean, I'm sure you can find, if you're a nuclear physicist, you can probably find analogous stuff in relationship to real estate. But what actually brought me to real estate was that I did a production of a play called Liverpool Fantasy at the Climate Theater in San Francisco, which was sort of almost like that movie, It's a Wonderful Life. In it, the Beatles never became famous because they picked the wrong hit single. And Paul is a lounge singer, and he's passing through Liverpool on a bus and truck tour. His name is now Paul Montana. And they all meet up at John's apartment in Liverpool, where John is living on the dole. His son, Julian, is the leader of a neo-fascist organization. George has become a monk. And,
yeah, of course.
Ringo has married a hairdresser. And they meet up for this crazy night at John's apartment. And, all kinds of merriment ensues. But it was written by my friend Larry Kirwan, who's also a children's book writer, but also at the time had a band called Black 47. It was a punk band from Ireland. And it got rave reviews in the gay press because, of course, it addressed the sort of homoerotic, everybody was all worried whether John and Paul were gay and a couple and what have you at the time. And we got wonderful reviews from the smaller papers. And then the larger paper basically skewered it. The reviewer wrote his review in rhyming couplets using all Beatles song titles, which tells me that he had been working on it for days before he wrote it up.
Right.
Basically saying you can't write a play like this about the Beatles, which was ridiculous because Larry had received a telegram from Paul McCartney congratulating him and telling him what a wonderful play it was. So you never know what's going to happen. My audiences dwindled. I ended up losing $60,000 of my friends and other people's money. And I felt honor bound to get that money back to them. And I was, at the time, my day job, I was working at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation for a minimum salary because a friend of mine had passed away from AIDS. And I decided that I would both volunteer and work there for a year as my sort of gift to him. And what happened at that point was I was like, oh my God, I've got to pay all these people back. So I went out and got a job. I used my theatrical skills and pretended to know something about advertising and got a job at an advertising agency. I mean, I literally ended up with my own office and a secretary and did not know what I was doing. But within 1 year, I paid back every single person who had given me money for that show. And I quit the day after I realized I had managed to do it. I talked to my boss about it, and he was like, well, I knew you were going to be really excellent. I didn't care whether you knew anything about the advertising industry because it was clear to me you were a great salesperson. Yeah. So then I thought, well, what else can I sell? So I went to a bunch of car dealerships because I love cars. And what I noticed was that all the salespeople were men and all the behind the scenes people were women. And I thought, this isn't going to work because I can't buck that trend. It's too gigantic.
Yeah, it is.
And then I went to some real estate offices and saw that all the top producers were women. Yeah. So I decided, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I got my license, and my very first month I made 6 sales.
I saw that. I was researching you before, of course, we went on, and I saw that 6 deals in your first month. How did you do that?
By not knowing what I was doing. And seriously, it didn't even occur to me to be frightened of anything. It didn't even occur to me to not be open and honest with people. I would tell people I've never made a sale before, and it would be such an honor if I could represent your house. So it somehow, I think the ingenuity of, or the being authentic and being present and just talking to people sort of helped. I'm pretty good at that kind of stuff. So, um, and also I was in a neighborhood where we were not talking. I mean, these were not like $3 million houses. These were like $250,000 houses, and I think that's another big thing for most realtors is no one in their right mind is going to trust you with their $3 or $4 million house when you've just gotten into the business. It's a big asset. They're
Sure.
not, they want somebody that's as sophisticated as they are about it. And I think that's a gigantic mistake that a lot of young realtors make. For example, every weekend I usually have 6 or 7 open houses that people could help me with, and they don't want they only want the new ones. They don't want any of the ones that have been around for a while, and they also only want the high end ones. And
Sure.
it always annoys the crap out of me because honestly, I've worked really hard to get to the point where I have a $4 million house on the market.
You know
I'm
how lucky agents should feel that you allow them to do this. This is free leads for them.
Thank
No
you.
matter what price point the house or the property is at, they should
Exactly.
be they should be thanking you with gifts as opposed to complaining. Like, the first thing I would do if I was an agent at your firm is beg and plead you, please, can you let me do an open house for you?
Oh,
That's amazing.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when I first started out, I sold trailers. I didn't care what the price was. I just wanted to get the experience and know what I was doing. And so when these people are, they've been in the business for a hot minute and they're only interested in the really, really expensive stuff, I'm like, okay, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
But I don't say anything. I just watch to see who are the people that are enthusiastic, that do want to actually work and do what's necessary to, I've had agents tell me that they need me to put signs out for them. And I've been like, wow, that's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah.
Seriously, first off, creating favor with agents that have been around a while is a really good thing to do when you get into a real estate office, because they're the ones that are going to have the majority of the listings, and they're the ones that are going to be controlling whether you meet buyers or not. So you should really jam on whatever they offer, even if it's been on the market for a while. I can't tell you the number of times I've had something on the market for 3 or 4 months, and there's been an open house, and somebody came in, and the lucky agent that was there got the buyer,
Yeah.
and their buyers got a deal at that point, so they looked like a hero to that person. So it's really stupid not to just be willing to do work.
Well, and all the other people that come through and don't buy it. Like,
Oh, yeah, hello.
I
Yeah,
mean, oh my goodness. Wow.
yeah.
And I want to honor you for a few things. First, I love you are very principled. There's a couple of things you said that I really want and I know being philanthropic is really important to you even
Mhm.
today. I know you spend a lot of time helping your local MLS every month. You spend more hours than you have to do this, which
Yeah.
because I know you're spending about 30 hours a month helping your MLS, which is insane when the production
Oh,
you have.
you're a sweetheart. Yes, I'm on the board. That's right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and getting a PhD and doing all these other things. So what I heard was this idea of being principled. And it's just like, hey, I lost people money in this theater production that should have made money. And as soon as you said Liverpool, I'm like, I hope it's about the Beatles. Of course it was. And then saying, I need to pay these people back. Most people don't do that. And there's that. And then you had a friend who passed, and you said, I'm going to volunteer and also get a job here, and I'm going to be of service. And you did. And I just think, those principles probably have helped you just set standards for yourself in your own business, where you hold yourself to a pretty high standard. I also wanted to mention one quick thing, and really get your opinion on it. You had talked about as you got started as an agent. Well, having the theater background is really what I wanted to mention. Was in theater, you're constantly playing different roles. Even as a writer director, you're writing different roles, you're directing different roles, so you are encompassing these roles, whether you're performing or directing or producing. And I imagine when you switched into real estate agent mode and got 6 deals your first month, you probably just were like, I'm playing a different role now. And it's so easy for you to just go, well, now I'm this, because that's what actors do, right? Actors play the role and they go 100% in. So you probably just went 100% in it. Like you said,
Yeah.
it didn't occur to you not to do it. And you didn't, yeah. So I imagine that probably really helped you.
It did. And, actually, I've written a book called Realizations that is for agents, and it'll be out in October. It's actually a book that talks a lot about how actors work and consequently how you can take that skill set and place it into the framework of real estate. I really think that every realtor should take an improv class, because a lot of what we do is thinking on our feet, being in situations that are unusual. You have to be able to think out of the box with a moment's notice in certain sorts of situations, right?
Yep.
So improv is great for that. And I think that it also opens people up to what is possible and inside their psyche. By the way, my dog is probably going to bark.
Nope. Hey, that's what dogs do. Now, I want to talk about, you grew up in a really creative household, right? Your father was a concert pianist at UC Berkeley. Your was an opera singer who toured the world, right? So
Yeah.
how did growing up with parents like that who were so creative and so skilled at their particular art, how did that shape how you like approach your business?
I think it really opened me up in so many ways. I mean, my dad was a practicing Buddhist. My mother sought a lot of spiritual guidance from different religions, what have you. The grandparents, one side was Jewish, the other side was Lutheran. And because of all of that, we got exposed to unbelievable philosophy, lots of intellectual conversations, lots of amazing people coming over to the house. I was very aware about politics. Of course, growing up in Berkeley, with my father working at the university, it was a very political time. There's a famous story in my family about me wanting to invite Khrushchev over for dinner because then he would know what nice people we were and wouldn't be so mean to the United States.
Oh, I love that.
Which gives you an idea how old I am. And it was really, I was incredibly blessed to have the parents that I had, because they only cared about whether you were a good person and whether you expanded your mind. And because of that, like, I remember my mother sitting me down when I was about 12 going, please don't learn how to type. I don't want you to be a secretary, which caused me no end of problems because I didn't learn how to type. And then when I was in graduate school, I was like, paying people to type my papers and things, but now I know how to type very well. But yeah, it was a very unusual upbringing, and I think that has stood me in good stead. I think anytime you can seek out amazing experiences as a human being, I mean, we're only here in this physical form once, and you have to just revel in whatever it is life brings to you. So if you're not enjoying it, don't do it unless it is going to lead to something that will cause enjoyment for you. Hard work is out there all the time. So you do have to work hard, but the reality is that the process of working hard can also be a beautiful thing. And I think it's a big teacher. So for me, I'm not frightened of hard work. I'm not frightened to get dirty. I'm not frightened to experience whatever it is I can possibly experience. My theater training helped me with that, but also real estate teaches you that. I mean, constantly, realtors, we're always meeting people at the most significant moments in their lives. I mean, think about it. They've either had a baby, they've gotten divorced, they've gotten a job, somebody's died. I mean, these are the intersection points in people's lives that are super significant for them, and you have to be there and able to transit through that kind of psychic energy coming at you, where whatever it is, because even happy things can be very, very stressful for people.
Oh, of course. And I suspect, this is a guess, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, I bet you feel lucky to help people during those big experiences.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, the problem that causes me is that because I accept pretty much everyone, I don't have a good meter for crazy, for um, I mean, I'm used to extremely unusual people. I mean, when I was working for Coldwell Banker, which was, a little bit more buttoned up than some of the real estate offices I've worked at. Like whenever somebody would come in the front door, my office was in the way back of the building. And whenever somebody would come into the front door, like tattooed from top to bottom, they'd be like, Andrea, your client's here. Just because that's my people were the circus performers and the actors and the writers and the teachers and so I think that for me, I have not had a great meter on when somebody was going to be really problematic. Like there are a ton of professional victims out there, and you have to avoid that at all costs because they are going to be just miserable people to deal with. And so I'm learning that now. I'm working hard on having a little bit more of a gut feeling around people rather than just immediately wanting to run out and help them.
Well, this actually leads me perfectly into my next question, because I know what is really important for you is talking about finding your best fit customer. So for our agents, our listeners that are trying to work with everyone, like you were saying, and exhausting themselves, what do you think the process is for figuring out who your ideal client is?
It can be as simple as taking a big sheet of yellow lined paper and putting your own likes and dislikes on either side. And for me, I think that my husband's about to start playing electric guitar upstairs.
Great. We need a soundtrack. I love it.
I think that for me, I also put together a Venn diagram. Do you know what a Venn diagram is?
Sure.
Okay. And where you intersect with a variety of different things is your best fit customer. So doing that for yourself, I mean, and be perfectly, ridiculously, relentlessly honest about it. For example, if you don't like to talk a lot, you can put that down. I'm not a talkative person and I don't like people who talk too much. Or if you are an engineer type, you put that down. Or if you are politically opposed to people that have lots of money, put that down. Or if you put things that you would think are weird about yourself, put that into your diagram and see where it coalesces. For me, my best fit customer is a highly educated hippie who's wealthy. That's pretty much my best fit customer.
Sure.
And I'm very blessed and fortunate because I live in Berkeley, which is where you find all those people. But I'm sure if I were working in New York or Chicago, I would find my best fit people there too, because the things that you carry with you from your personality are the things that are going to apply inside that Venn diagram or that yellow line paper where you come up with your best fit customer.
Well, so, yeah, I mean, we're here in Chicago where we have arguably some of the best theater in the country. We're very blessed.
I know.
We're very, very, very lucky. And so you would clean up here because you would be part of that community, and you are part of that community. In fact, I wanted to ask you, because you do so many things simultaneously, which again, I find that really common with most of the people I interview here on the show, these top 1%ers. It's not like they just do this, even though they do this 80 hours a week. They do other things too, almost equally as passionately as real estate. So let's just list off some of what you are currently doing all at the same time. Theater director, playwright, children's book author, podcaster, PhD student, and running a successful real estate practice. Now, a lot of our agents think, maybe they need to hide some of these other interests because maybe they're like, oh, maybe that just some of these other things I do don't look maybe as professional to real estate or whatever. But I bet these other interests that you showcase probably help your business. Is my guess.
Oh, absolutely. If all of the things that I do, like one of my playwrights right now is a client. All of these things that I do, you find your people where you tend to live your life. So if you are a kayaker and you belong to a kayak club, let people know you're a realtor. There's no reason. Now, when I first started in real estate, I was ashamed a little bit to be a realtor because it was like I was leaving my pack of theater people, and also the filthy lucre. I was definitely against money and business and what have you. And the longer I've been in business, the more I have grown to really appreciate people that are extremely successful in business, because that's a big skill set. Um, so I no longer hate it, and I'm no longer ashamed or embarrassed that I'm a realtor. In fact, I embrace fully that that's a large part of my identity. And at the end of the day, if you get old like me, you don't give a shit. Pardon my French. You're probably going to bleep that out. Of About what people think of you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem with realtors in general, is that we're a lot of people pleasers, and we're extremely concerned what people think of us. And the reality is that people think of themselves. They pretty much don't think of you unless you actually affect them in some way.
Right.
And so don't be worried. I mean, if you think about the times that you didn't go to somebody's big party because you had a pimple on the middle of your nose, or because you didn't have the right thing to wear, just realize all that really happened was you missed out, because they didn't care. Nobody cares. It's not important to care about that stuff. And so, I think now at the age that I'm at, I'm perfectly open with people about the things that I'm doing, because it doesn't really matter as long as I can fulfill their need. But I've also earned that by having the reputation for being a very, very hard worker. So it might not be the best idea your first day on the job as a realtor to say, well, I'm really, really actually passionate about, skiing, so you can tell people that that's a hobby of yours, but I wouldn't put it in that framework of it's more important to me than what I'm doing. So yeah, I think that everything that you do just becomes a part of who you are and the imprint that you make on the world. And it doesn't really, I mean, real estate it's a job, it's a profession. It's not exactly a calling, but it is a very important part of the financial life of the United States of America, frankly. I mean, real estate transfer taxes basically run cities, and real estate transactions are a large part of the wealth of this country. So I think that if you approach real estate with the sense of vitality and excitement that you place on other things that are important to you, but realize that those other things that are important to you are just as important, like your family, your loves, the charities that you're involved with. I'm really happy that real estate allows me to, whoops, you've gone. There you are. I'm really happy that real estate allows me to give the money that I give to charity, to work with the Berkeley Humane Society. I'm a big animal advocate, and that it allows me to work on theater in situations where if I was completely dependent upon a paycheck, I might not be able to do that. So it affords me that possibility.
You describe yourself as a marketing machine. And after 1,000 transactions, what does your marketing actually look like today versus when you started?
Well, when I started, I had no money. So I couldn't afford. And also, when I started, cell phones were the size of a shoe. There was no multiple listing service. There was a weekly sheet that was passed out, that was delivered, hand delivered, printed sheets that had the addresses of different things. A place in my area, Alameda, had not joined into that. So you had to literally drive up and down every street to find out what houses were for sale by the for sale signs in the front yards. It was a very, very different time. There was no navigation. You drove around with the Thomas Guide in your lap.
Yeah.
And so my marketing has changed radically, but also the industry has radically changed. People were scared to get a fax. They would hover by the fax machine because they didn't want anyone to see what they were getting. There was a lot more of that sort of nasty competition than there is now. I truly believe that there's enough business for literally everybody. There's no reason to be competitive. Only be really, really, really competitive with yourself. Know your numbers down to the nth power, and know how many conversations it takes you to get a client. but don't be competitive with your colleagues. In fact, love your colleagues and hang out with them, get to know them, be collegial with your colleagues, because they're going to be one of the best resources that you will ever have in real estate. Honestly, that's how
Yeah,
you find out about things that aren't on the market. It's how you find out about what happened. It's how you find out about, pitfalls that you can avoid. Knowing your colleagues is really important. So marketing wise, going back to the marketing question that you had, now I have my own website. I'm kind of everywhere. I hire incredibly good photographers. I do a 3D tour, drone shots, trilight, video. God forbid I walk around and do a homespun video. I have an advertising agency called Agent Upgrade that I work with, who does all my social media for me. I rant about political things on my personal pages, but on my business pages, I let them do everything. That's what I pay them for. I have a virtual assistant in the Philippines. I have 2 full-time listing coordinators who make my houses look fantastic and make sure that everything is perfect, that make sure that the guy goes and blows the yard before the open houses on the weekend. I have a full-time transaction coordinator. So now that I have all of those, that staff, because I don't do a team, I'm an individual agent. I've never really wanted to have like a bunch of people that whose productivity I didn't know working under me. I prefer to just do it myself, and then I refer business to people when I can't handle it. But my marketing, I make sure it's very, very coherent, congruent, and matches. So, for example, I have like a teal color that I use, and I have a squiggle, and I'm the only one who does that. I have bus benches. The bus benches have never, ever, ever had my photograph on them, and people think that my photograph is on them. I do not know why, but they do. And I've had those for like 17 years. I also advertise in a couple of luxury home magazines, Haven, Luxury Home. I write the real estate columns for both Berkeley Hills Living and Montclair Living. I just got a listing from my last column in Berkeley Hills.
Wow.
Because the person's been reading my columns for the last 7 years and it knows I know what I'm talking about. So I do all of that on a regular basis. I spend a lot of money marketing. I mean, like probably way too much money marketing. And I advertise the Berkeley Humane Society every chance I possibly can get. So, and by the way, 3 years ago, I raised $400,000 for the Berkeley Humane Society. So I feel really great about those kinds of things. And I love my marketing. I enjoy it because remember, I got that job at the advertising agency. I love advertising. I think it's very useful. I think it works. So I like to be on top of all my marketing that way.
I wanted to ask about a particular skill that you have that I don't think in all the conversations I've had anyone has specifically talked about before, but it is really a competitive advantage for you, and your clients actually talk about this, which is how you can accurately predict final sales prices in multiple offer situations. I mean, that is an incredible skill. Tell me about that.
My goodness, you did research me, didn't you, though?
Mhm.
It's like an idiot savant thing, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it's because I'm constantly having deja vu every time I walk into a house in the area that I serve, because I've probably been in every house in the area that I serve. So I have a deep awareness of what has sold in the past, what's coming up, who the agents are, how they tend to price, what their patterns are, because there are a lot of people in my area. For example, I don't know if it's common in Chicago, but in my area, people will underprice grotesquely.
Mm.
And one of the things that I do with my buyer clients is I do comparative market analyses for them on every single house that they're thinking of writing on, because the list price compared to what it's going to sell for are very different things. There are people out there that will price a house at $899,000 that is going to sell for $1,250,000 or above. And so it's very stymieing for clients to try and figure out those prices. And so I'm kind of aware, and I know the people that do that. I'm kind of famous for not doing that. Like, I generally will go to a listing appointment. I want that trend over, but it's not over. I will go into a listing appointment and say, worst case scenario, this is what you'd get. Would you be willing to take that price? And if they say yes, that's the price we'll go on at. And if they say no, sometimes I'll take the listing and sometimes I won't, because the market is volatile right now. And I don't want to spend, I'm going to spend a lot of money doing photography and what have you. And you have to factor that in, because it's not the money that you make, it's the money that you keep. That's
Right.
important in real estate. And nobody ever remembers that. I can't tell you the number of friends of mine that really went down I've been through 4 economic downturns, and they were not keeping track of what was really going on in the market when they were spending money like yesterday and, there was no tomorrow. At that point in time, they really went down, and it took a lot for them to come back. So you always have to save for a rainy day. You always have to be aware of, there are times when you want to pull your belt in and not spend as much. There are times when it's fine to spend a lot, but just know what the return on your investment is going to be. So as far as my idiot savant ability, it's not really an idiot savant ability. What it is that I've had so much experience that it's pretty obvious that something is going to go for X, Y, or Z. And I'm usually pretty spot on. Now, the thing that I notice is that all sellers want at least $200,000 more than they're getting. Doesn't matter what the price point is. And all buyers want whatever it is they want for about $200,000 less than it's going to go for. That's the paradox.
So you have to sort of solve for that, or at least solve for that expectation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I literally, about a month ago, I closed escrow on a property that the seller had bought it for $750,000. They wanted $2 million for it. They bought it 5 years ago. I got them $1,780,000 for it, and they were not happy. And they had not put very much money into it. And that level of greed
Yeah.
is, you can't address that because it's ridiculous.
It's funny that is an incredible return on investment, and yet, yeah, but people all have their different opinions about what they should have.
And I have noticed, by the way, in the last 10 years, that there has been a growing greed factor and a growing kind of lack of kindness factor out there.
Interesting.
People are out for themselves a lot more than they ever have been before. And, I won't get political on you, but you know what my thought process is.
Well, I also think social media contributes to that, because
Absolutely.
it's a lot of, hey, look at me. And a lot of, hey, look at me is look at the things I have, or look at the things I project that I have. So there is a little bit of a feeding the machine of getting sort of those likes and those comments based
Mhm.
on, here's what I have, here's what I can show you. So I think
Right.
it's a lot of kind of where we're at right now, which is unfortunate. I do think, though, I hope that we'll eventually find the data will be, it's already here, but the data on things like social media will be so obviously bad for us that the next generations hopefully will reject and go, no, compassion, kindness, actually interacting with people in real life and trying to understand each other is really, really the key.
I think that's the currency of the future, to be honest with you. I think we're getting to that point where if we don't, then shame on us. Then it's fine if the AI overlords take over and we no longer are meaningful in any way, shape, or form, because we deserve it. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree. You credit actually listening as one of your keys to success. And of course that sounds simple, but after 28 years and 1,000 transactions, what does actually listening mean to you that you think many agents miss?
There are subtleties in people's ways of communication that people don't kind of key into when they're talking to somebody. First off, most people are thinking about what they're going to say next when they're talking to somebody.
Yeah.
that's a normal thing. That's totally normal. And, and most of the time it's actually okay, because most of the time conversations are relatively meaningless. And there's just a little bit of import in there that should be paid attention to. But if you're actually hearing someone's goals, aspirations, dreams, desires, what have you, then listening for how they speak, how their physical being is while they're saying those things. I mean, body language is a very huge thing. Like if somebody's talking and they're standing like that, what are you thinking about what they're thinking? They're rejecting you,
Right.
right? If somebody's open, leaning in, mirroring you. I mean, we all learn these things. Everybody looks at things like neuro-linguistic programming, what have you, to understand how language works in those ways. But the reality is that people reveal themselves by the language that they pick to use. People reveal themselves by the emphasis that they place on words. People reveal themselves by the ways in which they don't respond to things. And you need to listen to what's between the lines. You need to figure out what the subtext of what they're saying actually is. And you need to figure out how it matters to them. Because if it doesn't matter to them, then you don't really have a client, for example.
Right. So yeah, so I can apply this in the recruiting space because I'm always trying to attract realtors to my firm. And what I did for the first probably 13 years doing this was the wrong approach, although it worked, but it didn't work as well as what I'm doing now. The original approach was, look at how great we are. Well, we have all this cool stuff, which is, by the way, what every brokerage does. Look at how much cool stuff we have. We have the best support and training. What I wasn't doing was really listening to, hey, what's your biggest problem right now in your business? And can I actually solve that for you? Because if I can listen and find that, because everybody has a current challenge in their business. If I can find that challenge, if I'm lucky enough to have you explain that to me, or if I'm, brave enough to ask and you tell me, well, now I can actually connect with you if I have a solution for you. And that's way more effective than, we are the greatest, right? So you probably ask a lot of questions, is my guess.
I do. I really work hard at wanting to know. First off, you're going to spend a lot of time with this person, whether they're a seller or a buyer, and you want to see if it's a fit. And also you really want to know what their level of commitment to what they're doing is. Because, I've had clients, I had one client whose last name, funnily enough, was Lifer. And I showed him a million properties, but he wanted something so specific that it pretty much didn't exist out there. And he was he was a fascinating person. So I didn't mind that much. And it was towards the beginning of my career. But it became almost like a joke that my Lifer client was coming to the office because, and so you need to figure out how warm they are as clients. That's just a very basic thing. But beyond that, you need to figure out how you can solve a problem for them. For example, yesterday, a woman came to me wanting to sell a condominium in Sausalito. And first off, I don't do a lot of Marin, so I was going to refer her to a Marin agent. But at the same time, I also looked into her building. I looked into what was going on with it. I looked into some insurance problems they were having. I looked into how many units had been on the market that had been taken off the market, how many had sold, what have you. And I really came to the conclusion that she was making a mistake to sell at this point in time because they had an insurance problem that was not basically. Somebody would probably get really interested in it and then decide not to buy it because of the insurance problem. And that's a lot of what's going on in California right now. And I told her just point blank, I know you want to sell this right now, but you're going to take a big hit. If you're okay taking a big hit, then I'm fine getting you to someone who can really do the best job possible because they're right in your neighborhood all the time. But if it were me, I might think a little bit about this and wait until this insurance problem is resolved. And she was so grateful to me. She told me that she was going to recommend me to a bunch of people.
Sure.
And that's the thing. Sometimes I've gotten reviews from people that I never actually worked with because I told them not to sell their property or I told them not to buy a property. You just going out there and being honest and open and listening to what's really important is a huge thing.
Yeah, it's really what we want from the service professionals we have in our life. We want, our doctors to say, "Hey, you should do this thing that'll make you live longer," right? Or
Right.
you want the accountant to come to you and go, "Oh, you could actually save money next year if you did this other thing." And financial advisors, same sort of role, realtor as well. And I think that we don't often, you know, real estate has a real opportunity, realtors, to be that sort of person for the client, is to say, I know you want this thing, here's what I'm seeing, and
Right.
here's maybe the better play, or at least what I would do if it were mine. Which is, by the way, what I always ask anyone when I have to make a big decision and I have to get someone's opinion and they're an expert. I go, if this was your problem, what would you do? And
Exactly.
I usually just do whatever they say, no matter whether it's the painter I hired, the plumber, or an accountant, or whatever, because I always go, they're going to know better than I will, and you do your homework too, so people know that you know what you're talking about. And it's taken you all these years to accumulate
Yeah.
all this wisdom, but you spend time studying. You're a student. So
Yeah.
I love the fact that you probably just put in more hours into not just showing homes, but learning the area. You know your market, and you're like, oh, Sausalito, I could do it, but I'm not as good as so and so. They're going to be a better fit. The most honest and authentic thing I can do is pass that over to my
Mhm.
friend who's going to do a better job. And it's so obvious to you to do that because you're like, no, I'm East Bay person,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that is a brilliant strategy.
Well, it certainly will save on gas too. Um, yeah, no, I mean, I figure any place I'm like a cab driver, I can serve very, very well. But if I'm not, and if I don't have that sort of institutional knowledge of what's gone on before, like Berkeley, I can probably tell you stuff about Berkeley into the 1920s.
Yeah.
Um, and so I feel really comfortable. Anything to do with Berkeley, I'm very happy to help somebody with. And why not and that's the other thing, get a referral fee from somebody for
Right.
something you don't really know about. I mean, I'm if that woman goes ahead and decides to sell regardless of our conversation, I will get a 25% referral fee from that agent. And that's
Yeah.
better than me possibly making an error because I don't know the area that well. That's the other thing. Everything is getting very, very litigious out there. And you have to really, really know your stuff. You have to really, really document everything. You have to really be clear on the new laws that are coming into play in that exact area, or you could end up in a world of trouble.
Yeah. Well, Andrea, you are an amazing just person. You do a
Thank
lot
you.
for others. You have a successful business which supports yourself and your family and all of that. And it's amazing that you do all of that, and you have all these outside interests that you incorporate into your life, and you just sort of do it all. And but giving back, I know, is so important to you. So we applaud you for all the help
Thank
that
you.
you give the industry. It's not just your side projects that interest you. You're actually helping your local industry and your MLS, and obviously the local charities and other foundations that you support. And you sit on boards and you do a lot of cool stuff. And I think passion is what I hear a lot coming from you, and exploring passion and really taking it everything. We were talking about this, I think, even before we went live, which is taking your life very seriously and being
Yeah.
very, very
Yeah.
precise about the things you want to do, and really going all in. You're an all in person. And I love that. And so, on behalf of our audience, we thank Andrea for her time. Her podcast is Realizations. We will have a link to that in the show notes. It's for realtors. So listen to Andrea. She's in 1,000 transactions. She's just an absolute amazing top agent in a very difficult market. And she knows that market better than probably anyone else. And that's why she's so successful, in addition to other reasons. And you can get some of these ideas from her by listening to her show. And also, let's follow her on Instagram. That is Andrea Gordon Real Estate. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. On behalf of Andrea and myself, thank you to our audience for getting to the end of the episode. We appreciate you. Thanks to our sponsors. And as always, the best way that you can help us with our show is by telling a friend. Think of one other agent in your office that could benefit from hearing this great conversation with Andrea. Lots of wisdom there. And shoot them a link or let them know about it. Keeping It Real, of course, is our name. And you can find us anywhere podcasts are served, just like Andrea's with Realization. Andrea, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and we will see everybody on the next episode.
Thanks so much.